Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Audience is so important to small business. It is one of the things that most small business owners don't realize that they have to actually work on. And it becomes part of your marketing plan, it becomes part of your public relations, and how you actually get your business known in the community. It is going to be the thing that is going to set you aside. You need to set yourself aside so that the right people will be attracted to your business, so that you can have your business filled with clients who trust and love you. We're going to speak today with Anika Jackson, and she's going to talk to us today about how we can actually strategize and market to the right audience and attract those people to us. She is the owner and founder of Your Brand Amplified, and along with having a popular podcast dedicated to all things marketing, public relations, entrepreneurship, she also created a program that also is dedicated to those things. The Brand Amplified program helps small businesses own and entrepreneurs to develop and strengthen their branding, marketing, and PR strategies. So why don't we welcome Anika to our show. Welcome to the show, Anika. This is going to be a real treat for everybody, learning how we don't really know how we're marketing ourselves as a small business. Why don't you start with the story how you made some really cool discoveries and actually started Your Brand Amplified.
Oh, thank you, Michael. It's a real pleasure to be here. I've been listening to your episodes and subscribed. So I always of course. I always love meeting people who have the same energy and want to bring this information to everybody. It's so important. So it all starts with your authentic brand. And I know a lot of people throw that word around, but it really is true, particularly during the pandemic. Everybody's at home. We really saw how brands that we interact with day to day shape our lives, and how the perception of them shapes whether we want to work with them or not. So we have to put that same thing into our own businesses and think about what are we showcasing to people, and how are we showing up in the market to the ideal customer, consumer, investor, sponsor, donor, what have you, who we want to work with.
Right.
And for me, it was always really organic. Even though I teach grad school for PR and marketing, I did not go to school for it. I actually went to school for public administration. From an early age, I just loved getting people together and that energy and excitement of people being together around a common cause, whether it was a nonprofit, an issue, or just good music and you wanted to go dancing, or an art show, or whatever it was, right? Just promoting things that I love to do and getting people together. And so from a very early age, I was always the kid who was like, I have to invite everybody to my birthday party. I was always the kid in 7th grade. I made flyers for a party I was having in my backyard and distributed them to the whole school. And it was just, I played records, people played soccer, volleyball, just in my little backyard in Lawrence, Kansas. It was not that big a party, but from an early time, I just knew that that's something I loved doing and getting that message out to people. So when I was in high school, I started getting asked to promote DJs and music nights because they knew I was there. And I will say I had a fake ID, not because I wanted to go drink, because I didn't care about drinking, but I wanted to be able to say that I was 18 so I could go to the dance clubs. So that was my first foray into, oh, this is actually a career. I mean, I knew about marketing, but I hadn't thought about it in these terms. So that quickly escalated into starting to do my own events, work with different music promoters and event people in the Kansas City area. Then I moved to Chicago and I worked in nightlife. Then I also worked for KBA Marketing on different brands. And so that took me into, okay, then how do you get word out about these brands on a different level? So Audi, Smirnoff, Camel, some of it was and I did not smoke cigarettes, but these are the days, I'm aging myself, when people did smoke in bars still. And so we would do certain engagements with the nightlife promotions. And then with Audi, it was all about getting people who had expressed interest in the cars to go do a test drive for the new Audi, whatever it was. So I had to learn how to message and how to do language to consumers. Then that took me into Los Angeles. And I will say, I'll do a quick little synopsis. I lived in Los Angeles, then San Francisco, back in LA, Houston, and this is my third time and hopefully final back in Los Angeles. And each of those, I took on different jobs and learned different skills in marketing and public relations. So in LA, it was working for magazines and doing a little bit of every part of the business, including circulation, subscription, promoting to advertisers, creating custom programs for the magazine with advertisers that involved a mix of ad revenue plus experiential events. And then making sure that they were the right events to attract the right audience for our readers and for that consumer brand. Then I launched a couple of magazines in San Francisco, a dance music magazine called Revolution, came with a CD every month. Same thing, working with both the consumer side to get the magazine into the hands of people, get consumers to get excited and start subscribing and purchasing and coming to our events. And then also working with advertisers to create custom programs for them and do the direct mail messaging to the advertisers to make sure that they understood what our differentiators were in the marketplace. Then I launched official Xbox magazine when Xbox first came out. So it was a lot of different verticals, a lot of different things, but the concepts and the marketing techniques and PR techniques were the same. And that's where I really learned you have these unique audiences and you have to know how to message to each of them differently.
Right.
So that was really the start of the process of, okay, when I started working independently and having clients come to me, not just working in-house for a company or brand, thinking through those same things. So somebody might come and say, we want PR, we want this. And I'd have to say, wait, we need to stop right there because you need to take these steps first. We need to make sure we really know who you are, what your brand promise is, who your customer personas are, and how do we map those messages appropriately. And then in this crazy digital omnichannel world, what are going to be the most effective ways to reach your audience? And how do you make sure that your message is consistent across all of your channels, whether it's your website, your social media, your blog posts, your newsletter, everything, anything and everything has to be consistent. And that's really where Your Brand Amplified started. My company originally was Anika PR. I was like, I'm just going to do PR. And then I kept getting so many small business clients that came to me and I was like, oh, they don't really need PR. They really need these fundamentals first. And I had previously had a radio show and a Facebook Live show in Houston where we interviewed, it was called Real Beauty, Real Women. We interviewed different brands, nonprofits, people who are doing good in the world and have them come on and talk about, what they were pouring into the world through their actions, through their brand, through their nonprofit, through the upcoming event, through their docu-series, whatever it was. So then I moved back to LA, pandemic hit. We tried doing a few episodes via Zoom. It was a little difficult because everybody was kind of scattered. And then I started getting requests to host other people's podcasts. And that quickly parlayed into, I realized, wait, I should have my own platform, Your Brand Amplified, because I really wanted to lift up the voices of small businesses, entrepreneurs, but also give them quick, actionable tips from experts on branding, marketing, PR strategies, SEO, even just business financing, feng shui for your office, and how all these little tips and tricks, right? Those are fun for me. Mindset, all the things that we need to know And even if you're not a marketer, if you understand and take even implement a few actions from some of these episodes and some of the speakers I've had, that will help propel your business forward. And so that's what brings us to today. My podcast's been around about 2.5 years. I just love it because I get to speak to amazing people like you, Michael, and expand my network. But also I take notes as I'm talking, because even as a marketer and PR person, I don't know everything, and things are always changing. Right? So I get to learn from the best as well, right along with my listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, I like how you said that. You don't know everything, but you're open to the learning, right?
Yeah.
And that's so important. And that open to the learning thing is one of the reasons why I created our podcast here, the Influencer Club, because it's like we had to open minds up for the learning. It's like there's so much information out there, and we can do so many great things just by opening our hearts and our minds, right?
Absolutely.
So, and it was an amazing story, and I don't believe you're old enough to remember camels being sold in bars or anything. So,
well, thank you.
So, your Brand Amplified is also, it's a podcast, it's your business, and it's also a program, a training program, right?
Yeah.
So, what are some of the steps that you take to actually discover what a client actually needs, so that you can figure out which way you need to take them in your business first?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. And so there's the podcast, as you said, it's the business where I consult with businesses and then figure out if I can help them, or who I know in my network who might be a really good fit for them. And that's where we usually do an intake form. We get as much information. Data. You can never have enough information. Mm-hmm. So because I and my team want to pour over look at your website, look at your social media, get the information from you on what have you done so far, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what do you think you need, and then we hop on a call and go over those objectives and just the very basic information we've been able to glean, and say, okay, here's what we think you actually need. Is it a match? Great. Then we put together a proposal, and we can start working on one thing at a time, or we can do it all at the same time. And so that's, we really want to tailor it, because not everybody needs everything at once. Some people are really great. I've had clients come into me who said, we want PR. They were ready for PR. They had a great story, knew how to talk, how to interview, because it's an energy exchange, and you also need to know how to hone in on your key messages. And what are those key messages? If you don't know that, it's really hard to hone in on them, and then you start stumbling and using a lot of filler words and weird, awkward pauses. So we want to make sure you're really prepared for the press. And this client, Garden Girls in Houston, they had everything ready to go. And for them, we were able to say, yes, you can move directly into PR. We immediately got them into the Washington Post. That's not a usual thing. We usually can't get somebody into really high quality press immediately. A lot of times people need a little bit more learning. They need to get comfortable speaking.
Yeah. And it also the how do you hone the story so that it's how to say this, that it isn't somebody taking, say, a 1 pound hammer against the concrete, and their story becomes that jackhammer that's groundbreaking, and the big mass media is like, that's cool, we gotta have them.
Yeah, well, and that's where, if we need to take a step back, we do that with retainer clients, but we also do that with the Brand Amplifier program that you were alluding to. Mm-hmm. And that really was born out of, I saw that so many people were coming to us and they weren't ready for PR. They really needed to understand who they were as a brand. Again, going back, what are your customer personas? What are you solving differently than your competition? Do you know who your competition is? Because we want to look at them and we want to see what they're doing right, what they're not doing right, and how do we make that an advantage for you and your business. And then out of that, we create marketing messages, PR campaigns, and really help people. So there's the do it yourself. You can go through modules with homework. There's that with coaching. And then there's the done for you, where we walk with you step in step, and help you formulate all of that stuff and give it back to you in a pretty package with a bow on top and do some PR work and all that. But I really realized like I wanted a solution that was not going to be crazy expensive. It wasn't somebody having to come and go to an agency that's going to charge them thousands and thousands of dollars a month to really understand the basics. Because if you have that foundation, then you can either know what questions to ask when you want to hire somebody, internally or externally, or you know enough to do it yourself to get started. And so that's where the Brand Amplifier came in, and that's really my passion and my baby, and where we go. And the funny thing is, so many people don't think they have a story, and they do. Going back to the gardening client, people are looking at ways to conserve water, not just in California, although it's a big thing here and in the Western US, but all over. You know, with all the climate change and the weather being wacky everywhere, how can we all landscape better to make sure that we have a beautiful lawn if you live in a place where you have a lawn, but that you're also taking care and that you're not spending all your money on your water bill and on all these other things that come up, right? Because the world is changing so fast. So there's always an angle for everything. Real estate, that's another one. There's so many people moving in state, out of state, to different countries, the digital nomad lifestyle. There's so many angles to real estate that people don't realize. So I think that's one thing that's a misperception, is people think you have to have one crazy story to put out in the media. You don't. You just have to have your own unique story, your own angle on what you do differently or better than other people, whether it's in your area, region, state, national, global, whatever, whoever is your audience.
Right. Well, and how do you help people determine what that ideal audience should look like?
Yeah, one thing we do a lot of work going through all the brands. So when people think brand, they often think logo, right? They think the colors. That's part of it. Yeah, exactly. But we want to get into your mission, vision, values. Who do you want to be? How do you want people to see you? Yeah. Then we want to do brand sentiment and social listening to see, have you had any people talking about you on social or in the media? How have they spoken about you? What are keywords that are resonating? If they're not speaking about you, we look at your competitors, right? So we do a lot of this kind of work hand in hand, even in the Brand Amplifier program, where you do a lot of these exercises to really, and I've seen people who are startups. I've also seen people who've been in business 20 years and are like, I don't think I'm really hitting the market I want to be hitting right now. Go through some of these exercises and realize how they want to reposition their messaging. Right. So it's not just, although it's marketed towards small businesses and entrepreneurs who are starting up, anybody at any point can use it if you just need to think through your brand refresh and you need a little help. So we go through the exercises, and I know you do this work too, to really hone in, and from that you can see who are your customer personas, and then we build out the avatars. And so, you know, it could be, and I love doing this because it's really fun to see who your avatars are, and it could be 3 different customer base people, right? So depending on what your product is, or it could be a journalist, your ideal journalist and publication could be an avatar. If you're looking for funding, your ideal donor, sponsor, venture capital firm, etc., that could be an avatar. And then your customer, your end user, could also be an avatar, or you could have 2 or 3 of those. And you want to build out everything about them, their psychographics and demographics. Name your avatars.
Oh my God, you use a word that I use all the time.
Yeah.
Psychographics.
Yes. I mean, it's so important to understand all of this. You want to really understand the psychology of the person. What books are they reading? What music are they listening to? Right. What do they do for fun? What social media platforms are they on?
Yeah.
You build up these personas, and then you figure out, how am I going to market to this persona effectively? What are they looking for? You can research. You know, that's the fun part, is really getting wonky and into the research. So you're taking this idea, this pie in the sky idea, but then you're using real life data along with your persona to then create that message. And that helps you also create your ad campaigns if you're doing digital advertising or outdoor advertising or in-home whatever advertising campaigns you want to run. Because I am seeing people going back to doing, you know, not just, you get overloaded with all the digital. So some of my clients, I'm recommending your consumer, if you're trying to reach people who might need adult basic education, do bus transit shelters, right? Look up the demographics and look up what are the most, look up the zip codes, look up the most frequently and busily used bus areas, and figure out like what messages you want to have in those. Like use digital outdoor banners. There's so many techniques that you can use, and I think we're going to see some of those techniques come back as we get more deluged with digital. And so those can also be a fun way to tie in, like maybe you have a customer base that's not living online. They're not going to want to look at the latest TikTok video that you do. They might not be the right age to be on LinkedIn. Maybe they're too young or they're kind of over their career. And you want to target them in other ways. So we like to think through all of those things and just think big, but then hone it in small. And then out of that, once we create your personas and all of your messaging, your brand strategy, then we move to your look, your colors. How do you want people to feel? What emotions are you evoking with the colors, the fonts? Are your fonts accessible when people come to your website, or for legibility? And then how do you create your marketing, your PR? How do you create the whole cycle of integrated marketing from that? Yeah. And then use all that to create your strategic communications plan. Yeah. So don't just create a plan based on what you think, what other people are telling you should do. Really hone in and do it based on who you are and where you are in the market.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I noticed out of people, and I just had you just reminding me of this while you were explaining all this about someone in my networking group that she is trying to market and cater to seniors. Well, she was using on her website. She uses larger fonts in everything that she does until you get to her website. Now, I'm going to give away a little bit about my age. I actually wear lineless bifocals, and I'm like, and we do our meeting on Zoom, and I'm standing on top of my screen. I'm like, honey, I can't read what's on my screen. As like, how do you expect a senior to be able to read it who wears thicker bifocals than I do? Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But these are the details that you help your clients think about. That is like, hey, we got to carry this all the way through everything. Exactly. The font size, the message size, and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wear reading glasses. I need them for my screen time. I need them for reading up close, but I don't need them for other stuff. So same thing. I'm always like, okay, can I read it without them? Can I read it with them? Is it clear enough? It's a real issue, and I'll go back a little bit to. I think it's funny because we are seeing more seniors on TikTok, and I think that is where TikTok is really good about making sure that the captions are in posts and things like that. And so thinking about if you have an older audience and they might be doing some senior TikToking, are they going to, or Instagram or whatever social media platform, is it the right platform? And again, going back to the accessibility, are you making sure to turn on the captions? Are you making sure they're legible? Are you making sure all the information is right where they need it? Right.
So, that's a lot of work too, right?
Yeah.
So you said you have some programs where you walk people through it, and you have some programs where you instruct them how to go through it themselves.
Yeah.
So, and in your questionnaire process, how do you manage to separate the two?
That's a really good question. Usually the questionnaire is for people who come in who think they want to be a retainer client. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll steer them to Brand Amplifier after I've read through their answers and had a quick strat session with them. For the Brand Amplifier program, we do a series of trainings. Some are free. Some are half-day training for $27, for just to attend, or $97 if you want more of a VIP session, as well as the half-day training. So I'm trying to do a lot where I'm really accessible and where people can ask me questions, message me through, to find out more about the program and find out which way would be the right way for them to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody will come to me to be a retainer client and they're not a fit for me as a retainer client or a fit for the program. Then I go to my roster of amazing professionals and say, I think this person might be a great person for you to work with. They're in your vertical. They can do what you need them to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm not afraid to do that. There is so much abundance in this world. We all work together. It's not, if somebody's not the right fit for me, that doesn't mean that I don't know somebody who will be perfect for them in their business. And so I always look at that as well. And in the Brand Amplifier program, like you said, we do have where you can do it all yourself. You watch the videos, the modules, you do the homework. Then we also have the next session, which is with coaching, where we'll do some one-on-one coaching sessions and also group coaching sessions and trainings. And I'll bring in experts like yourself to give a little extra knowledge and another point of view. So it's not that don't just take my word for it, right? Take other experts that I can bring in to share information on things that I might not be the expert in, like that I know this much of, but they might know this much more. So,
yeah. How do you show up in your community?
What's that?
How do you show up in your community?
Oh man, how do I show up in my community? I do a lot of things, and I've been pretty consistent with the things that I do, no matter where I've lived. And this goes back to my own personal brand, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a marketing or PR business per se when I lived in Houston, mm-hmm. but I get a lot of Houston clients. Because when Houston is a place that's a small town in a big city kind of thing. So you can't just move. I lived there 8 years. I wasn't just going to come in and say, I had a PR firm in LA, because that's just not the way people react. They want to make sure they can know, like, and trust you, and that you're there for the long haul. You're not just a fly by night. And so I would do PR marketing for certain companies on the down low, and then I did have a business doing events for nonprofits and pairing nonprofits with corporations that wanted to do good. Mm-hmm. So I stuck my hands in a lot of different tentacles and had my own businesses, but because I was consistent with how I showed up, and people could see that they really knew who I was as a person and they could trust me and my brand, that's why I still get referrals from not just Houston, but other places I've lived as well. Client referrals. There's a million people in each of these cities that could do what I do, but because they trust me and they trust my brand that I've built up over this time, they come to me. And again, some of them I can work with, and some of them I have to say, you know what, I might not be the right fit. Here's this other person who would be great for you.
Yeah. And I like how you're wording that, because what you're saying is that you're not just throwing your dregs out the window to whoever catches them. You're actually like, hey, I'm qualifying this person before I actually send them to you as a referral, which is really cool for the rest of the business community, those who are in the same market space as you, right?
Absolutely.
So would you say Anika is known for quality?
Oh, yeah. I guess I think enthusiasm, philanthropy. I've done a lot of nonprofit work, working for nonprofits as an employee, but also as a volunteer. I've started a couple of nonprofits of my own. So I'm very also involved in heart-centered businesses. I always want to know that if somebody's my ideal client, then they have a social good component. It doesn't have to be that they're a nonprofit, although I do work with a lot of nonprofits. They could be a for-profit, but they're doing something good for the world. An example would be Kitty Credit, which is an app that teaches kids and families and caregivers about credit, but does it through gamification, so it makes it fun. And then as they get older, the modules change, and then there's a curriculum, so that it's a big issue. Financial literacy, it's a huge issue for so many of us, and so it's a way to gamify. So it is a for-profit business, but they're doing something really good that everybody needs to understand. Too many of us get to adulthood and make bad mistakes with our credit and don't know how to manage money, and so they're trying to start that process earlier. it's really fun when you kind of hone in on who you want to work with. Not everybody in that space will, of course, be your ideal person. And that's where you still have to tweak a little bit and figure out. But those are the kind of people that I'm really attracted to, is people who are really just wanting to do something good for the world. And it's coming from them. And that's where I could never figure out if I wanted to be a social worker or a business person. So I majored in public administration. And now I feel like I get to do both. I get to work with like really cool people who are doing awesome things in the world, but I get to do it from the business perspective of helping them grow.
Right. So, what are some of the best results that you've actually gotten for your clients?
And this is what's so fun about today is we're not just siloed anymore. Now, I can't say, I'm saying that as a general statement. I think some companies still work like that, but for the most part, if you're in marketing, if you're in PR, if you're in communications, you need to know a little bit about a lot of things. And so this is where we can actually measure. So I'm able to say, because of the press hits that we just got, we've increased your website traffic by X%. And I've seen that go up from 400% to 2,000+% in 1 month, because the backlinks in those articles that we got them in high profile publications with good domain authority linked back to their website, and they start getting more inbound requests. So even though PR is not sales, it does help in the sales cycle these days. And then out of those hits, you can then turn that great article, that great podcast, whatever the format was, into omnichannel. So then you take it, you share it on your social media channels, you add a backlink to your website with a blog post, perhaps, on how much you enjoyed that experience or what the key messages were that came out of that interview. There's so many things you can do. Then you can take it and parlay it into advertising, because you're showing that third-party validation. You're not just tooting your own horn. Somebody else is saying, yes, you are an expert in this area, and everybody else should know about it. So that's something that's really fun and that I love, again, getting into the details and the data. Or even if somebody is like, we want you to handle social media and blog posts for the website. All right, well, let's see how we can continue increasing your website traffic. What are your actual goals? Do we have the right calls to action for those goals?
Right.
And to map back to making sure that you're reaching the right audience and you're capturing them when they come to your website or to your social media or see you in the world.
Yeah. It's how you're seen, and how in how the story is actually told becomes the difference between finding that ideal client or finding one that that person. You see those entrepreneurs, they go to work every day and they're like, it's work. When you're an entrepreneur, it's supposed to be love. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Somebody asked me one time, and it's not so long ago, in a networking group, so what's your retirement plan? Huh? Oh, well, I guess if I get hurt bad enough, I guess I would have to retire. I was like, they're like, you don't plan on, I said, well, I love what I do, so I plan on doing it for as long as I can, and as long as our universe lets me do it.
Yeah.
So, and that was the whole thing, is I have a business full of those ideal people, and that's what you do for people, right?
Yeah, that's what I love doing. And I want people to find joy and get that aha moment where they really see the changes that can happen in their business. And I love being part of that journey for them.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to ask you a really, really, really tough question.
Okay.
While you're working with all these businesses, what kind of a world are you trying to create around yourself?
Ooh. I think I'm trying to create the world, and I think I've now finally created it. I'm on that journey. I'm on that path. I want to have what I think we've seen a lot of people want, which is something but it's been something that's been part of my life throughout my career. I need to have that flexibility. I'm a single mom. My daughter does a lot of activities. I have other interests. I need to be able to be a full person, right? Not just chained to my desk all the time, not just work, but also, to your point, I love what I do, So I want to be able to incorporate that. So my ideal is having that world where I can go on a trip and maybe take a couple days vacation, and a couple days I'm working in a hotel room or whatever, and that's okay because I'm getting to do it from somewhere differently, and I'm not having to go physically into an office every day. I need that flexibility where I can get up in the morning, work a little bit, take my daughter to school, come back, work, go pick her up, take her to activities, and that I'm not going to be penalized for making sure I'm there for my daughter, because she's the most important thing, everything that I will ever do in my life is making sure that she turns out to be a good human and gets on her path.
Yeah.
So to me, that creates a huge sense of fulfillment when even if I have to work really late at night grading papers for my students, or working on a pitch for a client, or making sure that we have the next awesome press release ready to go for the next morning, I don't mind that. I'd rather know that I can have the flexibility when I need it, and that people will be supportive of me, and that the people I work with are supportive of that, because then I'll deliver excellent work the rest of the time. And, I think that's what we all strive. Well, again, I'm using generalizations. I think that's what many strive for. I think many people think that's unattainable. And I think that we can all have that. We can all, it's a little harder if you work a job and you have to go to a factory, or if you're a driver for something, or you work for the postal system perhaps. But think about and dream about what else you want to be doing, and spend time on that. Make sure you find those moments of joy.
Yeah. That's it. The moments of joy, right?
Yeah.
So, and I have to say this: sometimes, hey, having kids, that's in being able to have a world created for them is kind of the point of it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, what kind of world would you want to leave behind for your daughter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very into education. I think, and that doesn't mean 4-year or master's or grad school. Not everybody needs to do that or is cut out for that. I mean, as I said, my degree was something I'm starting to work in it now a little bit, but it didn't necessarily have to do with what I did for work at the time when I finished my degree. The world I want to leave is one where people have access to education all over the world, but they have access to basic human rights, healthcare, education, safe place to live, and that we're kind to each other. I think what we're seeing in this generation, her generation, is people are more open to accepting other people. They're also less privy to peer pressure. What I'm seeing from the kids these days, it's really interesting and unique. And I mean, my daughter, she wants to get her PhD in neuroscience. She's a freshman in high school. She already knows that that's the path she wants to go down, and she's working towards that path. And so my job is to be supportive of her and help. Okay, let's figure out and she doesn't need help, honestly, from me on what classes to take in school and how she wants to map out her career. But then where I can come in is, okay, let's look at these schools that you want to go to and see what programs they have in the summer. And I'm lucky that I'm able to do that with her, right? And to see what we can offer her, and okay, how much is this going to cost? Let's make sure we can save and talk through that and position her how she and everything she wants to do. And I just wish every kid had that champion, I guess, like that, had that person, whether it's a parent, a caregiver, somebody in their life who can be that person to say, yes, you can do it, you can achieve. And that's really what I wish for the world. There's so much divisiveness, and I don't know that that's going to go away, but I just want everybody to have access to basic human rights and to try to treat each other kindly. And that's one of my mottos, right? The Dalai Lama, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible.
Yeah.
You don't have to, because whatever you're feeling when you're reacting to something negatively, you need to check yourself internally and find why is that triggering you? Can you just leave it alone? Do you have to react? What is causing that reaction? And I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, but just not every problem is going to be solved with energy, water, all the different things going on, war. But if we can support kids and make sure that they have the tools that they need to have curious minds and to be those problem solvers, then that's the best we can ask for.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, best ways to find and get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you. Amplify with Anika, Anika, and Your Brand Amplified on all social platforms. Amplify with Anika on all socials, Your Brand Amplified on Meta and LinkedIn, and then yourbrandamplified.com. You can listen to the podcast there. You can learn more about me, learn more about how we work, and also find out about the Brand Amplifier program.
Yeah. And if you want some great information, just by listening to it, for all of you who I know listen to podcasts, go ahead and subscribe to Anika's podcasts. It is Your Brand Amplified, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I subscribe because it's an awesome podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and please do find that subscribe button wherever you may see it. And thank you again, Anika. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really enjoyed our conversation.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. please contact us at depictions.media for more information.